Okay? Another tenet. The more the English is taught, the better the results. The more that the English is taught, the better the results. Who can explain this? The more the English is taught, the better the results. Have you taught in secondary school? Have you taught in secondary school? Yes. How many hours are given for English? How many hours in a week are given for English? How many hours are given for English? 10 hours. 10 hours are given. Okay, 10 hours. So, the more the English is taught, the better results. But this was meant to. Why do you exclude other languages? How many hours are given for Swahili? How many hours? For Swahili. But for English? In English, Eric. So many hours are given. You can see. This is a good example that English is accorded many hours. Many hours. Now, why should we give many hours to a language which is not ours, but deprive the Swahili of many hours? Okay? Another tenet. If other languages are used much, standards of English will drop. If other languages are used much, standards of English will? Okay, can you discuss this? Do you think this is true? So, hey, listen, there were different strategies, okay? There were different strategies to discourage other languages, okay? Okay? For example, when I was in secondary school, we had what we called English campaigns. We had English campaigns. So, everywhere, we were supposed to speak English. Everywhere, there were announcements asking students to speak what? Speak English. So, if a student was caught speaking other languages apart from English, the so-called vernacular languages, such a student was punished. So, there was a discouragement when it comes to the use of other ethnic community languages and Kiswahili. So, when we were in the room, even after class hours, we are supposed to speak English. You know, when I was in secondary school, I was the school chairperson. The school chairperson. Because they knew that I liked English. Right from that time I was in Form 1. So when I was in my Form 2, I was appointed the school academic prefect. School academic prefect. Well, when I was in Form 3, I was appointed the school chairperson. So I was given the responsibility of making sure that everybody was speaking English. Everybody was speaking English. And I pretended that I spoke English every time. I pretended that I spoke English every time. Because wherever I went, I had to speak English because I was a leader. Now, some Form 1 students, some Form 2 students were fearing when they saw me, okay? So when they saw me, even when they were speaking other languages, they could pretend that they were speaking English. So when I went nearby, they started saying, yes, 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 yes. But when you go far, they start using what? They start using Swahili. Because speaking a language which is not yours 24 hours is a burden, is it? Is a burden. Speaking a language which is not yours for 24 hours is a burden. So they force the learners to use a language which is not theirs. So learners who spoke other languages, learners who spoke Swahili, learners who spoke ethnic community languages were punished severely because other languages were discouraged. You get the concept? It is okay? Yes? If other languages are used much, standards of English will drop. So they thought that by allowing students to use other languages apart from English, English standards could drop. Maybe students could be speaking English as if they were speaking Swahili, or maybe they could be speaking English as if they were speaking ethnic community languages. So in order for standards of English to be kept intact, in order for standards of English to be intact, learners were discouraged from speaking what? Other languages. Only English was to be spoken because they wanted to maintain standards of what? Now, we say all those tenets. How many tenets have we seen so far? 5. They are all fallacies. They are all fallacies. They are all fallacies. Last time I gave you a definition of a fallacy, okay? What's a fallacy? What's a fallacy? What did I say last time about a fallacy? What is a fallacy? Because I say all these tenets are fallacies. What's a fallacy? Is that? So it is a belief which you take for granted that you can't support such a belief scientifically. Okay? First of all, let's not try to oppose. Okay? Let's try to oppose these tenets, okay? Because we say they are just fallacies. Why do we say they are just fallacies? First of all, they show a severe ethnocentrism. They show a severe ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism. Write this word. ETHNOCENTR, okay? ISM, ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism. Let me repeat that, okay? Let me spell again, okay? Let me spell again. You know ethnography?
Yes.
So we have ethno, then we have centrism. Say? Centrism, ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism. Now, what do we mean by ethnocentrism? What do you mean by ethnocentrism? Ethnocentrism. This is an ism, eh? This is an ism which can be discussed when we talk about linguistic imperialism. Now, ethnocentrism, listen, ethnocentrism in simple words simply means judging other languages using own language. Judging other languages using own languages. own language. For example, when you have this ethnocentrism, you tend to judge other languages using your language as a yardstick. As a yardstick. Do you know yardstick? What's a yardstick? Ask your neighbor. What's the yardstick? Yardstick. Right. Yard. Y-A-R-D-S-T. Stick, eh? Stick. What's the yardstick? Ask your neighbor. Hey, if you have internet, you can search yardstick. You found it? Have you found it? Can you read?
A yardstick is a measuring tool that is 1 yard long, 36 inches or about 91.44 centimeter. It is usually made of wood, metal, or plastic.
Other meanings? Other meanings?
Okay.
In linguistics context, when we refer to a language or dialect used as a reference point to evaluate or compare the languages.
You get a concept? That's what I mean by a yard. Yard. Now, when we talk about languages, when you say this is a yardstick, you try to judge other languages using standards in your language. So the British used ethnocentrism, trying to judge other languages by comparing with English, okay? So they said, okay, other languages don't behave like our languages, like our language English. In this case, you say, okay, your language is backward. Your language is backward, okay? Your language is backward because our language English can be used for technology. Can be used for technology. Hey, your language is backward because English can be used in literature. Your language is backward because our language can be used for Google. Concept. So you try to judge other languages using your language. That's what we mean by ethnocentrism. But ethnocentrism can also go beyond languages, okay? You can also try to judge other people because of your race, because of your race. Okay. Find the ethnocentrism. 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 What's it? Ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism. What is it? No, this is not a this is a lecture, but we are also discussing, okay? Because we are master's students, so we can turn our lecture into a seminar. Because I'm using what we call participatory what? Participatory? Okay. Ethnocentrism, okay?
Ethnocentrism in linguistics refers to the belief or attitude that one's own language or dialect is superior
You
to
get
others.
a concept?
One's own language or dialect is superior to others.
Yeah. Actually, that's what I mean by ethnocentrism. So all the tenets you have seen are just these are the tenets which are supported by ethnocentrism, believing that my language is superior to other languages. So the British believed that English is superior to other languages. So other languages were seen as being backward, barbaric, vernacular languages. Ethnocentrism. But you can't prove this scientifically because linguistically, all languages are equal. Linguistically, all languages are equal. Okay? Linguistically, all languages are equal. But we have other factors which make us different in terms of languages, okay? We have other factors. And these factors can be social, economic, political, and so forth, okay? But linguistically speaking, all languages are equal because all languages have grammar. All languages have grammar. And when we talk about grammar, we are including all grammatical aspects, okay? Which are grammatical aspects, which are grammatical aspects.
Phonology, semantics.
So each language, each language has that, okay? Each language has all the grammatical aspects. Now, when you ask yourself, why do we differ then? If English has all the grammatical aspects, if Swahili has all the grammatical aspects, if Kisukuma has all the grammatical aspects, okay? If Hosan has all the grammatical aspects, if Luo has all the grammatical aspects, then why do we differ? When you ask that question, then you're going back to linguistic impediment. Okay. Okay? Now, before we go further, we say we have something, we have what we call linguicism. 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 What is the linguicism? Linguicism. Like this. Right. Linguicism. Linguicism. What is it? Linguicism. Okay. Linguicism is the unfair treatment of an individual or community based on their use of language. Unfair treatment of an individual or community based on their use of language. Okay? Can you read that? Can you read?
Linguicism is unfair treatment.
Is the unfair.
Is the unfair treatment of an individual or community based on their use of language.
Yeah, so linguicism means that you're going to have unfair treatment of other people, okay? You're going to have unfair treatment of other people based on their use of what? Language. So if you try to exclude ethnic community languages from the school environment, let's say when children come to school, let's say you are the headmistress somewhere, okay? Are you the headmistress? Let's say you are the headmistress somewhere, okay? You are the headmaster somewhere. You are the English teacher somewhere in a given school. Then you say, when you are in our school environment, you are talking to our children, okay? You are talking to our students. When you come to school, you don't have to speak other languages apart from English. You only need to speak English from time to time. You don't need to speak Swahili. You don't need to speak your ethnic community languages because your ethnic community languages are not allowed in our school environment. So when you are in our school environment, you only need to speak English. So when you try to treat people like this, you are trying to use what? Linguicism. Because you are trying to exclude people because of their language. Because of their language. So that is linguicism. That is Linguicism. Now, linguicism is said to have taken over from racism. From racism. Linguicism is said to have taken over from racism. Racism. Do you know racism?
Yes.
What is racism?
Unfair treatment of people based on their skin color.
Yeah, unfair treatment of people based on their skin color. Racism. And racism has taken different forms, okay? And we have other names to refer to racism, okay? For example, in South Africa, racism was known as, how was racism called in South Africa? Did you start history?
Yes.
How was racism called in South Africa? Apartheid. Apartheid. You see? So apartheid, not apartheid. 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 Not apartheid. 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 Not apartheid. Apartheid. Okay? So linguicism has taken over racism. So while with racism, you exclude, okay? You exclude, you eliminate a person because of race, because of skin color. You say, we have different colors, okay? We have blacks, we have whites, we have Indians, we have the colored. You know the colored? You know the colored? Half caste? Half caste? You know half caste? Who's a half caste? Not half caste. Half caste? You know half caste best? Half caste? Not half caste. Right there. Half caste. Half caste. So we have different people with different colors, okay? Black, white. Now when you discriminate people in terms of their skin color, that is right? But when you discriminate people in terms of their language, that is linguicism. Now, Philipson, 1992.
F-O-P-H.
Philipson. Yeah, PH. Philipson. Not the Filippo, Philipson. Philipson. Because they say when you are rich, you are called Mo. When you are poor, you are called Moody. And when you are rich, you are called Joseph. When you are poor, you are called Yusuf, right? I don't know. Okay, now this is Philipson, not Philip, right? Philipson. Now, Philipson 1992 states that Philipson 1992, okay, in his book, Linguistic Imperialism, says that monolingually oriented Europeans fail to recognize the linguistic richness of language varieties. Monolingually oriented Europeans. Monolingually oriented Europeans. Monolingually oriented. Hey, from orientation, From orientation you get oriented, okay? From orientation you get? Oriented. Now we have monolingually oriented Europeans fail to recognize the linguistic richness of language varieties. The linguistic richness of language varieties. Let me put it this way. Listen. Let me put it this way. Many European countries, including Great Britain, are monolingual. Are primarily mono. What do I mean by this? What do I mean when I say many European countries are primarily monolingual? What do I mean by this? Madam, what do I mean by saying many European countries are primarily monolingual? Like that. Many European countries are primarily monolingual. What do I mean by this? Ask your neighbor, what do I mean by this? And give me examples. What do I mean by saying that many European countries are naturally monolingual, are primarily monolingual? For example, hey, originally, now things are changing, okay? Things are changing now because even in European countries, there are many immigrants, okay? There are many immigrants, people coming from other countries, moving to European countries. You get a concept? For example, we have different people moving from Africa, going to the UK. We have people moving from Africa, going to Italy. We have people moving from Africa, going to Spain, okay? People moving from Africa, going to Germany, okay? But originally, all European countries were monolingual. Monolingual. Okay? So there were no other languages found in their countries. So when you talked about France, before immigrants came to France, France was only a country which was determined, which was characterized by only one language, which was what? French. When you talk about the UK was originally monolingual because only English was used in the UK before other languages were accepted in the UK. But nowadays, we no longer talk of a monolingual Europe, okay? We no longer talk of a monolingual Europe because we funded those languages which were originally the only ones, okay, used in European countries are now mingled with the other languages. You get a concept? So when you go to France today, you find other people speaking Spanish. When you go to the United States, you find other people speaking Spanish. Because we have many Spaniards. We have many Spaniards. You know Spaniards? You know Spaniards?
Yes.
Who are Spaniards? Yes. Yes.
And they speak Spanish.
Spaniards. Spaniards. Hey, right. S. P. A. N.
I.
Spaniards. I.
A.
Mhm.
N. S.
Spaniards. The Spanish people, okay? So when you go to the United States today, you don't simply come across people speaking English, okay? Even down the street, you are likely to hear people speaking Swahili, okay? You are likely to hear people speaking Spanish. You are likely to hear people speaking French. You are likely to hear people speaking Portuguese. Because today, the United States is no longer a monolingual country. Well, English remains to be the mother tongue of the men, okay? Of the main Americans, but they have also accepted the other languages, okay? So today, Europe is not monolingual, but what's the opposite of monolingual? Multi? Yeah. Now, when Europeans came to Africa, when we were colonized by the British, okay? They had that notion of monolingualism. Monolingualism. Because they had that notion of monolingualism, they just valued a single language, and that language was theirs. So when they came across other languages in third world countries, they had their ethnocentrism. Ethno? So they decided to judge our languages using their linguistic yardstick. Their linguistic yardstick. So they said, okay, your language is barbaric because your language does not behave like ours. So your language is backward. Your language is backward because your language is not used in literature. You got a concept? But nowadays, we need to accept multilingualism. And in France now, they are accepting mat. They are now accepting multilingualism because there's no way you can be monolingual now. After all, multilingualism is an added advantage. Is an added? That's why when they announce, when they advertise an international post, they say knowledge of French is an added. The primary language is English, but knowledge of another international language is another. So if you know English, but you also know Arabic, but you also know Spanish, but you also know Chinese, but you also know German, that is another. So in the modern world, we no longer talk of monolingualism, because monolingualism is a past thing. We are not accepting, we are now embracing multilingualism. What is multilingualism?
The situation whereby a person is able to speak more than two languages.
Yeah. So the Europeans, when they came to Africa, decided to present what we call the European American perspective. European American? Which means that only one language, which is English, has to be valued. Other languages don't need to be valued. Other languages don't have any place when it comes to educational circles. Psyche. Educational circles. Okay? You get a concept? So, linguicism what do you say about linguicism?
Unfair treatment of an individual or community based on their use of language.
Now, what's the focus of linguicism? Let's now see the focus of what? Linguicism. What's the focus of linguicism? Now, linguicism focuses on ideologies. Are you there? Linguicism focuses on ideologies, structures, and the practices which are used to legitimate, effectuate. From effect, you get effectuate as a verb, okay? Yes. Effectuate, regulate, from regulation, regulate, and reproduce, okay? Unequal division of power and resources, not resources. You can say resources, but resources, okay? I'm saying resources, okay? Resources. Can you read now? Can you read?
Linguicism focuses
Focuses.
On ideologies, structures, and practice, which are used to legitimate, effectuate, and regulates
Mhm.
and reproduce
Mhm.
an unequal
Mhm.
division of power
Mhm.
and resources.
Yeah. Between groups, between groups, between groups which are defined, between groups which are defined on the basis of language. This is according to Skatnab Kangas. Skatnab Kangas.
This is
On the basis of language. On the basis of language. This is according to Skatnab Kangas, 1988.
spelling.
Skatnab Kangas. Right. SKUTNABB hyphen. I say SKUTNABB hyphen Kangas. Kanga of Swahili then yes, Kangas. Kangas, eh? Yes, K-A-N, Kanga. Do you know Kanga? A Kanga owned by a woman. A Kanga. Then you add yes, okay? Okay?
Pronounce it.
1988, okay?
19.
88. I think that book is in our reading list, okay? We're going to check, okay? Now, whatever, can you read now? The whole definition. The whole.
The focus of linguicism.
Mhm.
Linguicism focuses on ideologies, structure, and practices
Mhm.
which are used to legitimate,
Mhm.
effectuate,
Mhm.
regulate,
Mhm.
and reproduce
Mhm.
an unequal division of power
Mhm.
and resources
Mhm.
between groups.
Resources. Mhm.
Between groups which are defined
Mhm.
on the basis
Mhm.
of language.
Yeah. Now, what do you mean by legitimate? Because linguicism begins with legitimating. What do you mean by legitimating? To legitimate a language or a dialect. Because we are talking about legitimating. And legitimating here is in terms of legitimating a language or a language dialect. Because you can legitimate a language or a language dialect. For example, when you talk about English, okay? When you talk about English, do you know the dialects which are legitimate?
Yes.
Which have been legitimated? To legitimate means what? To make something legitimate, okay? To make something legal. To make something legal. In other words, to legalize. To legalize something is to legitimate. Now, which dialect of English has been legitimated all over the world? Because, as you're going to see later, we have different dialects of English. And because we have different types of English, because we have different dialects of English, the word Englishes was coined. Because we have different dialects of English, the word Englishes was, we're going to see later what we mean by Englishes. Now, because we have different dialects of English, we need to have the legitimate dialects. The legitimate? And the legitimate dialects are the ones which are allowed when it comes to school environments. For example, when you talk about English in our context, we know that we have British and we have American English. But even in our context, American English is not legitimate when it comes to scholarly articles, when it comes to scholarly writing. When today you write your dissertation, okay, your supervisor will tell you that I don't need to see you writing using American spelling. American? But when you go to the United States, you are not allowed to use British spelling. Because British spelling in the United States is not legitimate, it's not? But when you go to former British colonies, British English is legitimate. This means you are supposed to use British English when you write your essay, when you write your dissertation, when you write your thesis. So in our context, The legitimate English dialect is what? Is British English. So when you write a dissertation and I'm your supervisor, then you use American spelling. I'm going to say no. Don't use Z when you write organization. You need to use S because S is British English. You don't understand? Now, even legitimating a dialect or a language depends on the context. You don't understand? When you are in the United States, like I said last time, in the United States, we don't simply have standard American English, okay? When you go to the United States, we have another dialect, which is used by Afro-Americans, okay? We have another dialect which is used by how did I call this dialect? Used by Afro-Americans? Ask your neighbor. How did I call this dialect used by Afro-Americans? Do you know Afro-Americans?
Yes.
Black Americans, okay?
Yes.
How do they call their dialect of English? They call it, right, B-E-V. 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 B-E-V, Black English Vernacular. Black English Vernacular. But sometimes they call it Black Vernacular English. But in most cases we call it Black English, okay? Black English Vernacular. So the notion, hey, listen, the notion of a legitimate dialect or a legitimate language depends on the context, okay? Where are you? So it depends on where you are. When you are in the United States, the legitimate dialect of English is American Standard English. So when you are coming from the Afro-American community, okay? When you are coming from the Afro-American community, when you are Black American, when you are a nigger, Sintoy, when you are a nigger, you know a nigger? When you are a Black American, then you go to school. Don't use your Black English vernacular when you write your essay. Because if you do so, you're going to be penalized. You're going to be penalized. Why are you going to be penalized? You are going to be penalized because they are going to use linguicism. They're going to use to exclude you. And you know what I mean by linguicism? Having unfair treatment on a person based on their language. So they're going to discriminate you. They're going to apply linguicism because you are using your Black English vernacular while you are in your school environment. So when you are in the school environment, you need to stick to the so-called standard American English. Now let's come to Tanzania. Do we have any linguicism when it comes to the use of Swahili in Tanzania?
Yes.
Do we have any legitimate dialect of Swahili to be used in the school environment? For example, when it comes to official letters, which dialect, do we have any standard dialect of Swahili to be used? Do we say this is not standard, this is standard? Hey, ask your neighbor. Hey, ask your neighbor which is Swahili is not standard and which one is standard. According to Bakita. According to? After law. Hey, after law, who says that this is Swahili standard and this Swahili is not standard? Who says? Because in each country, as you're going to see later, in each country there is a special organ, which is entrusted with the task of making sure that a certain dialect is selected as a standard one. As standard? So when you talk about Tanzania, do we have any special organ to say this is standard Swahili? This is not standard Swahili?
Yes.
How do we call it?
Bakita.
Bakita. What is Bakita? So in Tanzania we have an organ which is Bakita, okay? So when Bakita says this is standard Swahili, we are all going to follow, okay? And they are going to include that in their dictionary, okay? For example, let's start with dialects of Swahili. How many dialects do we have? Now, which one is standard?
Kizaramo.
Huh? Which one is standard? Swahili. Which is standard Swahili? Okay, forget about dialects. Let's come to the word level. Word level. Let's talk about the words. The way the words are constructed, okay? Because even the way the words are constructed, this is determined by Bakita, okay? Okay? For example, Bakita can say, okay, this is an English word. In Swahili, we are going to call it this way, okay? That's Bakita, okay? Bakita decides, okay? So Bakita is going to decide whether this is in Swahili or this is not Swahili. For example, how do we call a computer according to Bakita? According to Bakita dictionary, how do we call a computer? In other words, Bakita is going to standardize. It's going to. We have this whole process of standardization. Language, right? Language is standardization. Language is standardization. And in each country, there is a special organ. For example, when you talk about Tanzania with Bakita, so Bakita can standardize Swahili. Bakita can lexicalize Swahili words, okay? And when Swahili words are lexicalized, they are officially entered in the Swahili dictionary, okay? So only standardized words are entered in the Swahili dictionary. Non-standard words cannot be entered. But when Bakita says, okay, this is now a standard Swahili word, then this word is entered into the Swahili official dictionary. Official dictionary. For example, let me ask you a question. Has this word been entered in the Swahili official dictionary? This Swahili, how do you call a person who seduces, an older person who seduces young girls in Swahili? An older person who seduces young girls.
Sugar daddy.
Huh? Fataki. Hmm? In English, a pedophile. Pedophile. Now, has Tata? Huh? Has the word fataki been entered in the Swahili dictionary? Hey, check. Check the word fataki. Has it been entered? Fataki. Fataki. If it is not, it has not been entered, then we say it is not standard. But if it has been entered, if a word enters a dictionary, an official dictionary, then we say this is standard. Which are the new Swahili words? Do you know? Which are the new? Eh? Mbashala. Has it been entered
Yes.
in the dictionary?
Yes.
So if it has been entered, then that is standard. So today, instead of writing live, instead of writing many Tanzanian televisions, right? Television stations, right? Mbashala. Because Mbashala is standard Swahili, okay? So in Tanzania we have Bakita. In France we have l'Académie Française. L'Académie Française. It is a special organ in France which standardizes French. How about in Britain? I'm giving you a homework. Right. Which is special organ? Which special organ standardizes English in Britain? At least in each country, you need to have a special organ, okay? To make sure that their language is standard. Okay? So, to legitimate means to make something legal. So, when you talk about English is legitimate. English is legitimate as a language of instruction, okay? In Tanzania. But ethnic community languages are not are not legitimate. They are our languages, but they are not legitimate. You see? You see the paradox? You know paradox? Okay. The concept of linguicism, we are talking about linguicism. What's the origin of the concept of linguicism? So we say that the concept of linguicism arose in comparison with the other more established isms. Arose. Okay? Arise, then we get what? Arose in the past, okay? So we say the concept of linguicism arose in comparison with the other more established isms. With the other more established? What did I say about isms last time? Isms. We have different isms. Isms. I-S-M-S. So we say linguicism means what? Linguicism means what? An unfair treatment, okay? So linguicism was just coined, it was coined to refer to that unfair treatment of individuals or communities based on the use of what? Language. But this concept rose from other more established isms. So we have isms such as racism, right? Racism. Have you written racism? Sexism. You know what you mean by racism, huh?
Yes.
Do you know what you mean by sexism?
Yes.
What's sexism? What's it?
Refer to the discrimination depending on gender.
For example, can you give me any words in English which may signify sexism?
Prostitute.
Hmm?
Prostitute.
Mm-hmm.
It refers only to female.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But
There's
even a man can be a prostitute. Yes. Even a man can be a prostitute because to prostitute means what? Other words? Actually, that's a misconception. People have accepted for granted that a prostitute is always a woman. For example, when I say we have what we call a sexism language, okay? For example, sometimes a person may say, for example, previously when you said, I have a friend of mine who is a doctor. Who is that? A doctor. How are people going to think? Are they going to think of a woman? When you say I have a friend of mine who is a doctor, they're going to think of
A man.
why?
Because they believe that many doctors are men.
Mm-hmm. But we have other words to refer to
Teacher,
women and to refer to.
tailor.
For example, when you talk about English words, even English is sexist. Even English is sexist. How do you call a man who acts?
Actor.
A man who acts, let's say, in a movie, actor. And a woman?
Actress.
Why?
Sexist.
Why do you say actress and actor? Why do you differentiate? Why do you use he when you are referring to a man? But she. I'll give you simple words. Eh? Why do you say he and you say she? Do you have such expressions in Swahili? So there are some languages which are sexist naturally, even in French. You have personal pronouns that refer to men And your personal pronouns that refer to women. Okay, write the word sexism. What's sexism? Right. Sexism. And what's it? What is sexism? Search.